You were taught farming came first. Plant the seeds, grow the crop, then figure out what to do with it. Bread came after. That's wrong. Bread is at least 4,000 years older than farming. And there's a growing case that bread, or the hunger for it, is the reason farming exists at all. In 2018, archaeologists in Jordan found charred food fragments in a hunter-gatherer camp called Shubaika 1. Under a microscope, flatbread, made from wild grain. 14,400 years old, 4,000 years before anyone planted a deliberate seed. And it goes back further. On the edge of the Sea of Galilee, a grinding stone with starch residue on it dates to 23,000 years ago. Mammoths were still alive. Someone was already grinding wild grain into flour. This wasn't an accident. Harvesting the grain, dehusking it, grinding it, mixing it with water, baking it in ash, that's 5 separate steps. Nobody stumbles into that. That's a recipe. Here's why it mattered so much. Raw grain is basically useless to a human body. The seed is wrapped in a tough husk, and the starch inside is locked in a structure your gut can't break down. Eat it raw. You might as well chew wood. But crack the husk, grind it to powder, add heat. The starch unfolds. Suddenly your body can absorb it. That's not cooking. That's a chemical hack. It unlocks energy that was sitting in the seed the entire time. Energy your body could never reach on its own. And humans needed that hack badly. Our gut is small compared to other apes. We traded gut size for brain size. Bread is the workaround. So here's the question that's been haunting archaeologists. If bread came before farming, did bread cause farming? Making bread from wild grain is brutal. Find it. Harvest it by hand. Carry it back. Dehusk every seed. Grind for hours. The yield is small and the effort is enormous, but the payoff, dense, storable, portable energy was worth throwing a party over. In southeastern Turkey, there's a massive ritual site called Göbekli Tepe, built by hunter-gatherers around 9,500 BC, thousands of years before anyone in the region farmed. And there's evidence of large-scale grain processing there, huge quantities of grain, brought in to feed the crowds who gathered to build it and worship there. The theory, the need to keep producing enough bread and beer for these feasts, is what pushed people toward deliberately planting seeds. Bread didn't follow farming. Bread may have dragged farming into existence. By the time of the Egyptian New Kingdom, there were nearly 40 documented types of bread. The workers who built the pyramids at Giza weren't paid in gold. They were paid in bread and beer. But someone paid the real cost. Grinding grain by hand, kneeling at a stone for hours a day. For years, archaeologists have found the evidence in skeletons. Arthritic toes from kneeling, collapsed vertebrae, arm bones as dense as an elite rower's. The bread that fed early civilization was ground overwhelmingly by women. It wasn't free. Someone paid for every loaf with their body. Bread didn't just build civilization, it could topple it. In 18th century France, workers spent up to 88% of their wages on bread. When harvests failed and prices spiked in 1788 and 1789, that wasn't a policy debate. It was a revolution. The March on Versailles was driven in large part by the price of bread. When people can't afford bread, they overthrow the people responsible for it. And bread is hiding in your language right now. The word companion comes from Latin com, meaning with, and panis, meaning bread. A companion is someone you share bread with. Lord comes from Old English hlafwerd, loaf guardian. Lady comes from hlafdig, loaf kneader. Every time you say those words, you're talking about bread without knowing it. Bread wasn't invented once. It was invented dozens of times independently on nearly every continent by people who never met each other because the problem was universal. A starchy plant, a gut that can't digest it raw, and fire. Tomorrow you'll probably eat bread, toast, a sandwich. You won't think about the 14,000-year chain of effort behind it. You won't think about the woman whose skeleton carried the cost of it. You'll just eat it. And that might be the most human thing about bread. It's so deep in who we are that we forgot it was ever invented at all.